Hello, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show for August 15th, 2018. It's been a wild couple of weeks. Games are starting to happen. WoW is out. New WoW expansion. We got the Doom Eternal reveal. We've had Monster Hunter for about a week now. So there's a lot to talk about. We got the COD Blops beta, some other things as well. With me today, Wes Fenlon, features editor.
Hello.
And also on the line, not for the whole show, but just for the beginning, because we're going to open hot. We're going to open real hot. Is Steven Messner, our WoW correspondent. Steven, you've been playing World of Warcraft, Battle for Azeroth. Let's hear all about it. You've been playing it
Oh man.
Just give it to us. Give it to
Wait,
us.
can I just clarify first? Are we coming in hot because Steven's hot, or because the velocity at which we're entering into this
Why
game's
not both,
discussion
Wes?
is hot?
I'm gonna yeah.
Why not both?
Yeah,
I just need it clear for the record.
for the record,
Both.
because Steven is a hunk. Steven's a hunk.
Excellent. Carry on.
Yes, hello, I'm here. My eyes are really red. I just looked in the mirror right next to my computer, which is indicative of how much Warcraft I have been playing. Yeah, Battle for Azeroth came out on Monday afternoon, and I have been playing it basically nonstop since, except to sleep and occasionally eat. And man, what is there to say? It's good. It's another World of Warcraft expansion. I think like Blizzard at this point is a company that kind of has this reputation for quality, and so Battle for Azeroth feels exactly like that. Like if you're a World of Warcraft fan, this is just more of what you want. The story this time is that the Horde and Alliance are finally at each other's throats. They're not, kind of going into a tentative alliance to defeat some big threat. At least for right now, it's just all out warfare. And in service of that, you're kind of going off to these little island continents. The Horde gets their own, and the Alliance gets their own, and they're going to war with one another and trying to get some new allies on these continents. Sorry, I'm like, I can't even string a coherent thought together right now.
It's all right,
It's
buddy.
just every time I blink, I see a quest log.
Do your best. Do your best.
In the back of my eyes. No,
Steven,
it's good.
I think it was interesting that at first you were kind of just like, it's another WoW expansion. Of course it's good, but that you couldn't really take that for granted pre-Legion, right? Like I feel like the previous couple expansions before that, even if parts of them were good, people very quickly got tired of them because there weren't updates frequently enough, or there was something kind of inherently disappointing there.
Totally. And I'm so glad you raised that point, Wes, because like, yes, Warlords of Draenor is sort of like largely regarded as a terrible expansion, mostly just because it came out and then Blizzard didn't do anything for 2 years, really. I think there was maybe 2 major updates to it. And if you're not sort of familiar with World of Warcraft and how the expansions work, like an expansion comes out, and that kind of will carry people over for 6 months or so. But then what they need to do is they need to release major updates, and that continues the story of the expansion. It adds new new zones, sort of new raid bosses, new dungeons. Like they need to sort of shovel out more and more content into the gaping maw that is the consumer. And so, yes, you're right. Legion was really this great moment of after Warlords of Draenor, people I think were really shaken in their faith with Blizzard. Legion came out, and I think it really restored that. They found this template that worked, and Battle for Azeroth sort of continues that template. So right now, what we mostly have is the questing experience, as it's called, which is just the new 10 levels and all of the quests that help you get there. And so far, like, it's fantastic. The world design is like so striking. It's amazing. Right now, I'm going through the Kultirans is what their names are. God, this must be so hard for people that aren't World of Warcraft fans. It's just
the what now?
The Kultirans.
Uh-huh.
How do you talk about anything without getting into like reams
No.
and reams of Warcraft lore? The Kultirans are like this sort of isolationist maritime province of super rugged people. Anyway, and the Alliance goes there because they want their navy. What's that?
Do you mean they're pirates? Are you
There
just using
are-
fancy words
No,
for pirates?
there are some pirates to them.
Okay. All right.
There's a town that's very piratey, and pirates are an element, but no, it's more like that's what's really great about it, right? Is that it's not just pirates, right? Like they could have just been like, it's the pirate expansion, but Blizzard has actually shown, like, especially with this expansion, like there's a lot of nuance to it. So, you know, there's like pirates, but then there's also like these really sort of rugged maritime folks that actually just feel very evocative of, like, I'm Canadian, so it feels to me very evocative of like Newfoundlanders and people from Prince Edward Island and sort of our east coast of Canada, where it's a lot of fishermen. But then there's also like sea priests, and they're very Cthulhu-esque, and they have tentacles on everything. And so there's sort of like a lot of depth to it beyond just pirates, I would say. But yeah, so far, like right now, it's just basically like, if you've played World of Warcraft before, you'll be familiar with the setup. Like, I'm just leveling my Alliance character. I've already leveled a Horde character on the beta, and that was what I was using to sort of help supplement the review. But right now I'm going in with an Alliance character and going through these zones, and it's just, you know, questing and doing dungeons and all of that good stuff.
So, Steven, I have a question for you based on a
Please.
conversation I was having yesterday. So I played WoW for about 2 weeks back when it was just, there was one expansion, right? It was what was the first expansion? Burning Crusade?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it was like, you know, 2007 Burning Crusade had come
Yeah.
out, and that was basically it. Played the game for a couple weeks, wasn't really my thing. But at that time, the sort of common wisdom around WoW that I heard from everybody, both online and like people that I knew in person who played it, was Alliance was for babies and everybody else played Horde. The Alliance was like, you know, like the whiny 14-year-olds, and then everybody cool played Horde. And I don't know if that prejudice still exists, but I'm wondering how, if it does still exist, that has played into the whole elf genocide that one of the leaders of the Horde pulled off in the cinematic prior to this expansion coming out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, totally. Okay, it's funny because I'm a primarily Alliance character, so I guess I'm on the defensive here. It's funny though, because the Horde always paints the Alliance as like these little babies, but I feel like the Alliance simultaneously always paints the Horde as like edgelords. That's what they are. They're like, the Horde is a bunch of like edgelords. I can't. I'm struggling to think of a better adjective than that.
I mean, this was like
insult.
2007, so Hot Topic
Right.
definitely was still cool in some
Yeah.
in
Like,
some
look at the
ways.
undead faction and tell me that isn't, those guys
Yeah.
don't shop hardcore. Like, they have Hot Topic memberships.
So what you're telling me is that Reaper from Overwatch is basically just a persona.
Yeah,
the average
he
Horde
plays Horde 100%. Yeah, no, that's definitely still exists, and it's still kind of a funny problem, right? Because Sylvanas, so to sort of catch you up, Wes, you hinted at it, sort of the pre-expansion event that sort of kicked off this whole thing was this event called the War of the Thorns. And Sylvanas Windrunner, who's the war chief of the Horde right now, decides that she's going to sort of strike this decisive blow early and sort of knock the Alliance out of the fight. That was the plan. It didn't go according to plan. But she marches the Horde army up to Teldrassil, which is the Night Elf capital city. Specifically, Darnassus is the name of the city, but it's in this giant tree called Teldrassil. And a bunch of stuff happens, and basically Sylvanas makes the decision to just burn the whole thing to the ground, and that, you know, slaughters countless Night Elf innocents in the process. Now, what's funny about that is that it totally plays into these sort of stereotypes that people have of one side or the other, because the Horde is like doing this brutal slaughter and the Alliance is basically being like, oh no. And Sylvanas, the war chief of the Horde, is like a real badass, whereas like Anduin Wrynn, who's the king of the Alliance, is kind of like, he's like 18 years old and he's got luscious golden hair, and he really likes peace a lot. He continually talks about wanting peace. So yeah, it's still there. Alliance are babies, I can admit it. We're a bunch of softies.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you wrote a really big post for the site yesterday. That's great. That's like an intro to how to play World of Warcraft if you've never played it, or if you last played it like me, you know, 11 years ago or something like that. And a lot of it you're mostly focused on kind of playing the whole breadth of the game, but you talked a little bit about if you wanted to just jump straight into this expansion. So from all the time you've been spending playing it the last couple days, what are just like the most fun elements unique to this expansion that you think people would enjoy just
Right.
jumping straight into that stuff?
So I think for me, like, and actually the review in progress just went live before the podcast. So you can go on the website right now and read sort of a more critical analysis of my thoughts on the expansion so far. But one of my big sort of takeaways is sort of, I think one of the things that this expansion has really succeeded at is putting the world back into World of Warcraft, which is to say, I'm just totally in love with the zones and the story and the the characters that I'm meeting and stuff like that. Like they've done this really good job of evolving the quest design subtly over the years. Where like Wes, when you were interested in playing, World of Warcraft quests were like very much like go out and kill 10 boars, and there's no reason to do it. Just do it because you're going to get experience points, and that's all that matters. And they've really stepped up their game there. Where like Battle for Azeroth, even if you're not a huge World of Warcraft fanatic and you don't know all the lore. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. There's lots of things that I don't understand about it either. But jumping into it, like there's character arcs that you can sort of identify with. There's things happening that are easy to understand. There's crazy cutscenes and like all of this stuff that they've really stepped up sort of the production quality and making the quests fun and varied. And so you're still going out. I still had to do a quest where I had to kill some boars. But they would maybe do something a little bit unexpected. So like one good example is playing on my horde character, I had to kill some raptors that were sort of plaguing this bazaar in the main horde city called Zuldazar. And as I was killing these raptors, I was like, this is boring. Like, why am I killing these dumb baby little tiny raptors? Like they were seriously up to my ankle. They were ankle biters. And I killed a bunch of them, and then I saw this big one, and it attacked me, and then it ran off, and I chased after it because I had to kill it. And I chased it back to like this weird little like shrine it had built for itself, and it turned out that it was actually like the spirit of, he was like the god of garbage is what he called himself, like the spirit of the scavengers, and he was the patron of scavengers and the god of garbage. Anyway, it was like really stupid, but he like grabbed me and then turned me into a tiny raptor, and as punishment for like killing his kin, he made me have to go out and bite someone's ass. And so it turned into like a stealth game where I kind of go into more detail in the review in progress, so you can read it there for a better picture of than my shaky description of what happened. But he turned me into a little raptor, and then it turned into a stealth game where I had to avoid the city guards while sneaking up on the guy who actually sent me out to kill the raptors in the first place. I had to bite his ass. And then
ass biter Messner. All right.
That's right. So I bit his ass, and then he ran around as I was like stuck on the back of it, flailing, and it was like really funny moment. And I think like that's what they've really nailed in this expansion is, even though like I'm grinding it hard, and this is always to me like, maybe this won't make sense to people watching, but like reviewing MMOs is a hard thing to do because you're basically having to grind through an exorbitant amount of content, questing and story and all that stuff. In a really short period of time, right? Because you want to get the review done and let people know how it is. And that can really, it's challenging to not let that grind sort of beat you down. Like it's tough, right? But what I can say is indicative of how much fun I'm having with Battle for Azeroth is, even though I'm still playing, 10 plus hours a day so far, I'm having a great time. Like I'm laughing. There's quests that are making me smile. The world is beautiful. So they've done a really good job so far. Whether or not they carry that forward and the updates that come later. So for example, like the first raid, a lot of the end game stuff, right? The stuff that you'll spend a lot of time grinding doesn't unlock until September 4th. Our review won't touch on that stuff. Our review will cover what's available now because that's what you're paying for. But that kind of stuff will sort of determine whether or not long-term people like Battle for Azeroth, and if Blizzard can sort of keep up the same pace that they had with Legion of just giving people stuff all the time, I think it'll be a really successful expansion.
Cool.
The stuff about the world, excuse me, particularly interests me because when I played WoW, 10 years ago, that part of it didn't really grab me. But probably the most fun I've ever had playing an MMO was Guild Wars 2, which I played for like a month or two after that first came out. And that world was just really pretty, and like the design was really cool. It was just really fun to explore that world, and like they kind of built platforming challenges into the exploration of the world, and you could actually level up by just running around and exploring new places. And I think that's something that over the years, WoW getting some significant graphical overhauls and like kind of more attention paid to the art of its world has made that a lot more enjoyable as well.
Yeah, like it's getting close. I'll still say, like, when it comes to those, you know, if you're judging those two games one to one on that specific aspect, sort of the exploration, the environments and stuff like that, I still think Guild Wars 2 wins because that's what Guild Wars 2 like excels at. But World of Warcraft sort of remains this jack of all trades, where maybe it doesn't do something as good as Guild Wars 2, or it doesn't have a story as exciting as Final Fantasy 14, but it does all of those things really well in a way that other expansions sort of, or other MMOs end up really lacking in. Like Final Fantasy has terrible PvP, World of Warcraft has really good PvP. So yeah, like it's just been a lot of fun, especially if you're anyone with any kind of like nostalgia or affinity towards the Warcraft universe. It's really fun to get into, and admittedly over the last year, like now I'm reading the Chronicle lore books, and I've been reading some of like the Christie Golden novels, and like really immersing myself in that universe, and it's great. It's a good time to be a World of Warcraft fan, or just a Warcraft fan in general, I'll say.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds pretty great. And you know, it's really nice to hear that Blizzard included the God of Garbage, an homage to Stephen Messner in the game itself. So
yeah, a subtle cameo.
A little Easter
Thanks,
egg.
Blizzard.
Well, thanks, Steve. We appreciate the rundown. It sounded like the verdict is it's more of that good. From what I'm getting. Great. Cool. Well, hey, we'll let you get back to it. Thanks for giving us the rundown, and happy questing, man.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Yeah, take care, Steve.
Bye.
Bye.
Steven's going to be sad when he finds out he missed talking about Monster Hunter.
Oh, shit. I just kicked him out before that. That's fine. He's clearly got a lot of work to do. I don't envy him. Reviewing Monster Hunter was its own challenge, but
and that was a game you had actually already played quite a bit of on console, right?
Yeah. I had finished. When I say finished the game, I mean I had finished the game up until you hit high rank, which is, I think, it's still like a 20-hour deal, and then I even played plenty of high rank at that point. But yeah, it's not a small task, and Steven's playing a game that essentially is built to never end and is much more immense than Monster Hunter. Is like very kind of almost cut and dry, just kill, craft, repeat cycle. So, but hey, why don't we talk about? We're going to talk about what we're playing, Wes. But what we've been playing is largely Monster Hunter World. Yeah.
That's me. I think you might have a few other
few
more games than
I
me.
got a few things, but why don't we hit that now and just talk about it? So.
Have a big old Monster Hunter segment. Yeah. So I think I'm kind of behind. I really haven't had enough time to play. Was it last week that I got on? We talked about Death Garden. I think it was last week.
Yes.
So that was kind of my week last week, and finally, like this Sunday, I had a free day where I could just sit down and play Monster Hunter for the bulk of the day. So I've like finally started kind of getting through the campaign a bit and like figuring out how the hell the charge blade works, which is the
it's a toughie. It's a tricky one. And so, is this your first Monster Hunter game as well? Like,
yeah, I never played any of the ones that were on the DS or the 3DS or the Wii U or any of the the PSP or anything. I played Monster Hunter World's beta on the PS4 just kind of in anticipation of this PC version. We didn't know how long it was going to take them to put the PC version out. So there was, we were excited about the beta back in January of this year, or maybe it was even last December. I forget when the beta was out. I didn't think it was going to be quite this long that I would be waiting to play it. So I went into that beta just going, I'll kind of see what this is all about, and played a little bit with Austin, one of our staff members, who I think has been doing some guides for Monster Hunter on the site. He has played a lot of Monster Hunter.
He's a pro.
So this has been my first one, and it's clearly the best one, or at least the easiest one to start with, right? Like they took all of the rough edges, or most of the rough edges that made the games difficult to get into, but eventually rewarding, and really just smoothed those off, made it way easier to play, made the world really cool and dynamic, and it looks beautiful. Just like watching the montages of the chef palicos, these like this badass chef cat with like a does he has a bandana on his head, I think, and he's got like
Eye
one
patch.
eye is like
Yeah.
scarred out,
Yeah.
you know, and he's just like you order food at the canteen and he does this like cool like head nod like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna make you some food, and then the cats burst into action, make you this amazing looking food that your character eats. So it has so much just gorgeous detail in that regard that's kind of unnecessary for a system like you eat some food and then you have more stamina and health when you go on a hunt. But they just like put so much attention and love into that stuff that it just makes the game world just feel like really vibrant and fun to be in.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a game all about repeating the same tasks over and over, like crafting, preparation, hunting, crafting, preparation, hunting, to take on tougher and tougher monsters over time. So they really like you said, put a lot of detail into the ritual, or the components of the ritual, and it's just nice. It's just pleasant to associate, that animation with something so rote. That would be just like a simple menu interaction and nothing more.
Yeah, and you can skip them, but it feels like they made them good enough that on the 80th time you're like eating a thing, you'll just be like, yeah, I'll still watch that because it's fast and snappy and just like amusing. Just it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am like probably, I don't know, I'm partway through the campaign. The campaign follows you as like a fresh hunter in this new, you're kind of I forget what they call it, but you're in like the new world basically.
I think that's just what they call it, yeah.
And you're kind of tracking down this elder dragon called Zora Magdaros that's like this Godzilla looking, just gigantic creature. And I just did the mission maybe halfway through the campaign, I don't know, where you try to stop Zora Magdaros. You like put up some blockades and you're like shooting cannons at it, and then you mount it and you're hitting his weak points, because of course he has weak points. And then like another monster shows up, which is remind me the name.
Gigante or Gigante?
Yeah. A very, very angry looking kind of also dragon monster, and he kind of shows up and whoops your ass, and then Zora Magdaros gets away, and then you go on to some new locations, and that's about where I'm at right now.
Gotcha. So yeah, that's roughly halfway through the low rank stuff, maybe 2/3.
So the vibe I get is that the game really starts when you hit high rank, right? When you kind of play through the campaign once, like that's the beginning of the real game.
I won't say like what I like about it's not the real game, but it changes significantly, or at least like doubles down on the crafting and the cycle and the preparation. Like you really have to start thinking about what gear you have and what you should be working towards, and start actively going out and repeating missions to like obtain that gear.
I haven't been doing too much of that right now. Like I've been taking some side missions as they come, and trying to get some stuff to like upgrade my armor, but I haven't really gotten. There are a lot of systems that at first seem secondary, but I think, like you're saying, will become more important as you start going after these tougher monsters. But like you have a slinger that you use to shoot at enemies from a distance, even when you're using a melee weapon, and there are a bunch of different ammo types for that slinger, and I'm sure those are all important, but I haven't paid any attention to that like system at all.
And you really don't need to until like high rank, because keeping monsters around or slowly chipping away at their stamina, like those, or re-aggroing them with certain types of ammo, it all becomes much more important, can save you so much pain. But yeah, like I would just encourage people, if they're enjoying low rank and you're enjoying like just completing armor, and don't feel like you have to rush to high rank, because your pace might grind to a halt, and it's fun. I don't know. The fun of that game to me is just like setting goals for yourself. Like, I want this outfit because it looks cool, and all of the outfits look cool. Like they all look pretty, if not cool, at least like ridiculous enough to be enticing. Or
I've been like fighting with myself, because I really like the character that I designed. Spent like an hour in the character creator or whatever, and right now I have this like Vespoid helm on that has a good, I forget what the stat is, but it has some useful ability attached to it that I kind of want to keep. But I think the helmet looks really goofy, and I like want a helmet that doesn't look like a Viking helmet except made out of a bug. So I want like one of these cooler helms, but none of them have like the ability that I want on them. And I haven't, there are more monsters that once I've killed them, I'll be able to craft stuff from them, and I'm sure eventually I'll find one that I like. But right now, I'm just like, oh, I should really keep this on because I've upgraded it and it has a useful ability on it, but it looks so dumb.
Yeah, and that's the case sometimes. Like, if there's a problem with the armor system and gear system, it's that sometimes you got to dress for the occasion and not for yourself, and that can result in some goofy looking configurations.
Combinations, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that really doesn't matter until you get into some high rank stuff. And even then, it's not too important.
Yeah, at this point, I haven't done enough crafting to have multiple sets. I've kind of been like, okay, this is the armor I'm using, and I'm pumping like upgrade points into it to just get better defense. But I know there will come a point where I just have like every armor set or most of the armor sets, and it's more like going, okay, what hunt are we going on? I should probably have like, fire element protection for this particular monster.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm working towards. In high rank play right now, I'm stuck on RNG is a thing, and it will ruin your day sometimes in this game. It will also make your day. I don't think it's as egregious as some games with random drops for crafting materials, but I really want the high rank, one of the high rank Anjanath sets, and once you hit high rank, to complete most sets, you will need something called like a gem, and those are tied to archetypes, creature archetypes, or specific creatures. And I need an Anjanath gem, and the only way to get an Anjanath gem is by, or like you can do several things to like increase your chances, and one is to play an investigation with like a gold rank tier that increases your chances by quite a bit. Also, I think you have to break their head, which is
as you do.
Yeah, and it just totally depends on who you're grouping with or who you're playing with, whether that happens or not. Because Anjanath,
you can kill him before, depending on where you're attacking the monster, you can end up killing him before you accomplish that, right?
Yeah, and that's fine. Usually, you get enough stuff that you can sell, or like you always get something for successful hunts, even like unsuccessful ones. You like at least get research points, and you never leave empty-handed completely. But I just am not getting this drop. And like you, I have one Vespoid piece of armor that is just sitting on this. I want this complete set so bad. And I don't even need it at this point because it'll be helpful, especially if I upgrade the armor. But I'm getting into some of the later high rank stuff where I want to get these. There's even higher tiers of armor sets that I should be aiming for to take on the next, big monster. And I like a game that it taps into just my sense of aesthetic. I just want the set because it looks cool and it will look cool with my character, and I can take a picture with my guild card and show it to people, or like hang out with my friends in the gathering hall, and like they can oh my god, you got the whole Anjanath set. And it's not even that big of a deal, but to me it is. Like I want it. I want it.
I mean, it's similar to Dark Souls, right?
Yeah.
Where once you've sort of beaten the game, the traditional need for armor, which is like keep me alive while I'm fighting my way through this campaign, kind of switches to I like being in this game world, and I like PvPing or whatever, being in a game with other people. How do I maximize my enjoyment of being in that environment, or how do I show off, or however it manifests for you? And I think it's very similar in this game. Like you're going on the hunt with either random people you meet or your friends, and you want to look good for the hunt.
Yeah.
You don't want to look shabby.
No, man, you got to show up in your best digs. But it's been great. Like since posting the review and playing at my own pace now, it's become the ultimate. And now that it is like in the public, and there's so many fucking people playing this game, like it broke several records for a Japanese game releasing on Steam.
Yeah, I mean, it broke all the records for
All
a
the
Japanese game releasing on Steam. Well, I don't know. There might be total
Sure.
sales. It
big ones.
maybe hasn't outsold like Dark Souls or Dark Souls 3. I'd have to check it. It may well have by this point. I guess we can't say for sure because
Sure.
we, when we had Steam Spy, we had fairly reliable data on that kind of thing. Not so much now, but we do have data on concurrent players, right? How
Yeah.
many people have played this game simultaneously, and usually launch day is the biggest day for a big new game unless it's something with a huge multiplayer scene that sticks around, like a player owns Battlegrounds, right? Like if we look at the list of the most played games on Steam, the records, Fallout 4 peaked November 2015. Like Civ 6 that peaked October 2016, right? Those were like when those games came out. Payday 2 peaked well after it came out, but I think that was like the day it went free to play or something like that. But Monster Hunter World has made its way into that top 10. It was a bit lower down on the top 10 of the most played games on Steam, but it's actually risen a couple spots since its launch day. So it's actually grown since launch day to have more concurrent players. It's like 330,000 right now.
Damn.
So it's sitting just below GTA 5's peak from 2015 in the number 6 spot, I think.
That's very impressive. Like, Japanese game or not, that's massive.
Yeah. So it is one of the most successful games to ever launch on Steam, period. Not just for a Japanese game. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that bodes well for the future of the series. I mean, Capcom's going to be, they got to be like, okay, this is a tentpole in the West now for us, like, period. Like, it's got to be. So, more Monster Hunter.
I'm curious if they're going to do with this game what they did with many of the past games, where they released sort of, not exactly sequels, but like kind of iterative updated versions of the game. Like it's kind of still the same base game, but we've added in, X number of new monsters and like a new system, new mechanics or something like that. Like I think Monster Hunter something Ultimate on the Wii U was kind of like actually built on the version that was on the PSP before that or whatever. Like they've had several iterations of these games sort of just stick around the same family but continue to grow. And I'm wondering if World will be a new basis for that, if there'll be like a world : whatever, and then it just kind of adds like one new really big zone to the game and like a dozen new monsters or something. I know they've been putting out DLC, but who knows what they'll do next for this game.
Yeah,
but I hope they keep supporting it for a long time.
I think it would be silly not to. But either way, it's exciting. Yeah, it's just been it's been the only thing I want to play these days, and it's the most it's like pure video game comfort food, in that I can play it seriously, like with friends, totally engaged, like trying to accomplish some difficult endgame task where I have to be focused all the time, or I can turn off the very catchy music and put on a podcast and just kind of like idly. My favorite thing lately has just been answering SOS calls and just helping people out. And you get full credit for helping people if you join early enough, and just accruing resources from every monster over time. And the combat is as complex or simple as you sort of let it want it to be. You can just get in a couple swings here and there, or with the switch axe, which I'm using, you can really like learn to chain your combos and work on timing and do some pretty complex maneuvers.
Have you had issues getting into the multiplayer sessions with people?
So yeah, I wonder if it's a problem with just how many people are playing compared to like maybe what they were prepared for. I don't know, but I did not have issues at launch, but since launch, I think the last 2 days or so, joining active online sessions has been hit or miss. If I start my own online session, people will trickle in sometimes, but I can still answer SOS calls from my own online session. So it's like And sometimes I've been getting disconnected. Like I think one or maybe 2 or 3 times I've been like in a mid hunt disconnected, and that's out of like I don't know 40 hunts. So it's not like plaguing me like maybe like it is some people, but
Mhm.
it's less consistent than it should be for sure. Um, because I think the
Yeah,
best way to play
I've
is with
seen
people.
some people talking about it on the Steam forums and stuff, and hopefully whatever the issues are, they'll be ironed out in a patch.
Yeah.
I haven't had too many problems. I've had a friend like have trouble connecting to me, but for the most part, we've been able to getting games together without too
Cool.
much issues. So hopefully whatever problems there are get worked out. But yeah, like you say, it could just be because they didn't expect 300,000 people to be
Who
playing it
knows?
at the same time,
Yeah.
and infrastructure is not quite robust enough for that.
Yeah, it's not a perfect port anyway. I mean, it's still pretty heavy on the CPU, and I know we reported on uh, some early mods that lighten the load. I guess maybe I can link those in chat. But so who knows where the issue lies? I guess we'll wait and see. I just hope that those things get ironed out and we can all get back to like a stable form of hunting because it's so
Yeah.
much fucking fun. Like,
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, the only really significant issue I had with this game was before it came out. It had the crashing problems, but they patched that,
yeah, yeah,
several days before the game came out and fixed that serious issue. So overall, yeah, it's a pretty demanding game, but you can also turn down some settings that don't make a really big visual impact
yeah.
and get it to run pretty well. So I think if you're interested in the game, don't worry too much about it being a performance hog or having network issues. Like that stuff is there, but it's not a huge problem. It's not a deal breaker.
Yep. Any closing thoughts? You gonna keep playing it for the foreseeable future?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I really feel like I'm just starting to understand what the hell I'm doing. And I've done hunts with some friends, but like haven't done any really serious stuff where we're like, okay, we need to prep this way in advance. And, like I'm still really in the beginner stages. So I am excited to get up to those higher tiers and like start doing some serious shit. This is like my ideal version of like an MMO raid because the
Yeah,
combat is actually interesting.
really good. I'm with you. Yeah, I'm 50 hours in, and I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. And it's like it's hard. It's been hard to get me away from Fortnite.
I was gonna say
But
not even for Fortnite.
I mean, like I haven't touched. I logged on to Fortnite and like dinked around in a couple matches, and I just was like, it's not doing it for me right now. Not doing it for me right now. So
Well, that's high praise
yeah,
for
for me.
Monster Hunter.
Yeah, Monster Hunter World. It's out now on PC, and it's a pretty damn good. I'll post my review in chat if you're still unsure what the hell it is and you want more of a verdict. But so happy to have it on PC.
Hell yeah.
Anything else you've been playing, Wes?
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I played the opening, probably hour of What Remains of Edith Finch, one of our favorite games of last year.
Yeah.
That I did not play at the time, and don't have too much to say about it because I didn't play a lot of it. I played like the first hour, except the way the story in that game is told is really, really cool.
Yeah.
The art is great. It has so much personality and like ambiance in this kind of fantastical house that you're exploring that I think anybody who likes games in that general vein of like first person exploring a narrative heavy game, walking simulators, if you want to call them that, that is one that you should absolutely play. It's really cool.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back and play it with my partner because I think it's like the exemplary of just like the kind of short form storytelling that I think just about anyone could come to understand or be able to play.
It feels like a story that could have been a collection of short stories or a movie or something, but the way that they chose to tell it as a game and like the little bits of interactivity that come from that are actually what make the story really, really cool. Yep. So it's a great kind of example of like what you can do with a walking simulator kind of game and like why that design is actually really smart and interesting and a better way to tell a certain kind of story than a more passive medium would be.
Yep. Excellent game. That's gosh, what's it called again?
What Remains
What
of
Remains.
Edith Finch.
Yeah. Still highly recommended. I'll run through what I've been playing. Some extra stuff.
Tell me about the blops.
Yeah, so I didn't play a ton of it, so I can't really give like an updated verdict. I went to the reveal and played some of it on PC there in August. No, Jesus, it's August now. God damn it, in June. Oh man, time. What is it? And I liked it then. For several reasons, just because it's super team focused now. The character classes are like Overwatch, Siege, Light, in that they are very distinct and give you distinct like enable distinct like team tactics. One is like everyone gets shield. These are ultimate abilities, is what another one guy like has this big AoE fire attack that you just deploy on a point that can like burn people through walls and like push people away, deny area. Another guy has a grappling hook and this big stomp, almost like some kind of Titanfall, Overwatch, Winston mix-up. And none of these abilities, I think, redefine or like totally reinvent the game. They just are this like wrinkle of strategy that you can consider in a very familiar framework, because the rest of it is very much like I'm sorry for saying this, but boots on the ground, Call of Duty. No, there's no more like dashing, no more jetpacking. It's just running around and being the first person who can scope someone and accurately shoot them, or anticipate them with a grenade. So it's very, very familiar in that regard.
Unlike an Overwatch or a Rainbow Six Siege, I don't remember my time with the many Call of Duty games that I played years ago ever having much in the way of teamwork.
Yeah, and I think that's very much the focus this time around, is how can we make COD sort of part of the conversation when we talk about competitive shooters on PC. And I think a lot of those nowadays are more interesting to watch from a team play perspective, or at least that is like between Siege and Overwatch.
But do you think those abilities being in the game are going to actually kind of passively foster teamwork, or is it just going to be people running around, stomping and fireballing people?
See, and that's like hard to say, because I think right in the beta, people were still very much in the mode of, they went into it playing it like a Call of Duty and thinking of it like they always have. And I think it's going to have to be in the wild, and the meta will have to really form around what these abilities like can enable. So it's hard to say. And I'm just not a COD guy, or haven't been for a while. I mean, like I was back in the day, but I haven't like kept up with the Black Ops series super well. I liked World War II a lot as like a simple sort of homage to. It felt like Modern Warfare, but yeah, I don't know. It's either way. It's maybe a half step forward rather than a full step forward. I will say the PC version is being handled. I forgot by what developer, but the port is like super smooth, super like slick. A lot of graphics options. Interface is like it feels like Blops 4 is being built for PC first, or at least like I shouldn't say that, but it feels like a PC game. Doesn't feel like a I don't know, something that was kind of flipped quickly, thrown on Steam. Well, this is coming out of the
certainly encouraging. That's good.
Yeah, and this is excuse me. This is it's on the Blizzard launcher this time, on Battle.net. So it seems like they're really making an effort to bring Call of Duty back to the PC, or at least like putting it up on that launcher. I don't think it's just a means of like saying we want our 30% Steam revenue back. It feels like a concerted effort. I don't know that Blizzard, I don't really know what they allow or don't allow, but or how that all works. But it doesn't seem like any game can just be on there, unless that's what they're doing in the future. But
yeah, we'll see if that is changing as we go. But
yeah, who knows?
That's cool. Yeah,
Blops.
All right, what else have you been playing?
I played the first 4 hours of Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is the third Tomb Raider game.
So I feel like all of us have been kind of down on this game the past few months. It felt like kind of locked in that kind of like big budget third person action game from 2014 2013 like era of design. But you had some actually more positive impressions this time around, right?
Yeah, I think fundamentally how the game feels and what you do hasn't really changed. So it's still firmly in the template of the last two games, in that you're controlling young Lara, and the jumping and the climbing mechanics and all of those things are like sort of there and slightly expanded upon. And the setting is another jungle, and I think Laura is still an awful character. This prequel Laura is just like an awful person who keeps like intervening in all these, distant countries and making things worse. She like literally in the beginning of this game does her Tomb Raider thing and like takes an idol that effectively like kicks off a Mayan apocalypse event that begins with a flood that drowns an entire village. And she's just like, "Ugh, I can't believe I've done this," and then like kind of just carries on, and that's like, I don't know.
I mean, suppose they're saying they're like addressing the characters, like the fallout of doing tomb raiding, right?
I'm not convinced. They say that. I'm not convinced yet, because the solution to her fuck up, kicking off the Mayan apocalypse via tomb raiding, the solution to it is raiding yet more tombs. So
was she gonna turn back time or something? Like, is she gonna undrown those people?
She cannot do that. And like the first 4 hours like address that in conversation she has with like a side character, Jonah. I think he's been in previous games. It's been a while, but none of the characters are very memorable to me, so it's hard to remember. She goes, she's just like, "I can't let that happen again," and he's like, "You can't let that happen again." That's paraphrasing and definitely not exactly how it goes, but it if I drown an entire village, I would be fucked in the head. Like, I would be done. I would be losing my mind. So
I mean that is like potentially an interesting character arc, but I don't know if, from the first game that I played, I would not believe that this game would really do a good job with that, because the first game was supposed to be all about her kind of becoming the Tomb Raider, right? I guess they've kind of extended that out into three games now, but it tried to attach some emotional significance to her killing somebody for the first time, but it fell really flat to me. Like, it didn't work. And then like 10 minutes later, she's you're murdering like 30 dudes with assault rifles and shit. So that part just did not work for me as a character arc. And while I'm like, oh, I want to believe you could do a really cool character arc where she's grappling with the fallout of pilfering these ancient ruins and stuff, I kind of feel like at the end of the day, it's going to just be, well, you're the Tomb Raider, so that's what you're going to be doing in the game. Yeah. And we're just going to try to lightly kind of paper over your reasons for that with some emotional resonance, but it's still going to end with you going, yeah, Tomb Raiding's pretty cool. I'm going to keep doing that.
And I think like keeping, if I'm totally ready and willing to be surprised in that regard, and but I'm letting go of the story and Laura as a character and like what they're doing with the theme and all that stuff. Like, if we don't consider that at all, and it's easy to ignore that in those games for me, because it's not a major part of it to me. Like, what feels good about those games is like the jumping and the physics puzzles, and even if in the previous games, I don't think the puzzles were very good. They were like very tactile and felt nice. But
the first one, they certainly weren't. But
no,
I heard the second one, they were a little bit better.
Second one had all these challenge dungeons, kind of, that you could ignore totally if you wanted. These little pockets of puzzle solving, but even then they were pretty directed, and Laura as a chatty protagonist kind of pushes you in the right direction if you're lost for too long at all. And there are a lot of like environmental clues that sort of telegraph what is interactive and what is not.
Right.
That like maybe I think it always pushed me a little too readily towards the solution. And in this game,
sometimes it's okay to be stuck for.
Yeah, and I like when I think about old Tomb Raider games, like maybe those puzzles weren't as difficult as I remember, but I remember I liked the feeling of piecing, recognizing a room, dinking around with everything that's interactive, and sort of like figuring it out, even if it like was a silly, simple solution that involved jumping here and there. Like that's fine. The jumping and interacting with objects is meant to feel good, and feeling the feeling of at least thinking you're smart for recognizing that stuff is good. And in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, like the best thing they could have done for this series, besides the story, is make the puzzles harder. And like they've given that ability to do that with like this new difficulty system that lets you change the difficulty of 3 aspects of the game independent of one another. So you can change the difficulty of the combat, the exploration, which is the climbing and how clues are telegraphed in the world, and the puzzles. So turn combat to easy, because the combat in those games are just not that interesting to me. It's kind of like third-person shooter cover mechanics with some Arkham-y stealth, and I just never
done that many times.
Yeah, it's not that exciting to me. And it's like it's sensible to like feel empowered, I think, in this third game and play on easy anyway. But in exploration, it's really nice because it makes the window of timing for certain jumps and much smaller, and like crumbling events. So the platforming gets a bit more challenging in that way. Your timing really matters, and it removes like the white paint from. And like it softens all the environmental clues that tell you where you can go. So it's not like a major change for platforming and stuff, but it's nice because it feels like I'm looking at the rock wall myself and reasoning where I can go. And sometimes it's a nice little test of timing. I think the best change.
Yeah, tell me about the puzzle difficulty.
Yeah,
I'm really curious about this part.
The puzzle difficulty. I mean, it's all pretty obvious. It just like removes all of the. Laura won't talk at all during a puzzle, which is like, thank God. She won't like say, what if I grab the barrel and do the thing with the barrel? So none of that. And it removes all of the like environmental clues for like what is interactive and what is not. It also tightens the timing on some timed elements in certain puzzles. And what that leaves combined with they really doubled down on these challenge dungeons, and there's like supposedly a lot more. The game's a lot bigger. I don't know in total what that means, but I did 2 or 3 challenge dungeons during the first 4 hours, and all of them were interesting in some regard. And one was interesting because it was this giant physics puzzle where there's basically this big crane you can control that swings a cube around, this giant cube across this chasm. And you need to like figure out how to swing this cube at the right time to jump on it as it goes by, and then like fling yourself across certain places. And then kind of like Nintendo style, it will introduce that idea and then like iterate on it in several more challenging layered ways. And none of that. It was really nice to like just figure all that stuff out on my own, because in the other games it would just tell you kind of what to do. And it's not like the puzzles are fundamentally different in how you interact with them or whatever, but it's just freeing to see a room, recognize the pieces on your own, and do that. Another puzzle was totally underwater, so another thing they're doing in this game is like making a lot of underwater dungeons and areas. And
that's cool.
Yeah, so it was this nice twist where it was this big labyrinthine like temple and like all these like tunnels and like grass, and it was maze like. It was really hard to they're easy to get disoriented. Meanwhile there's like eels that you want to hide from, sneaking around, and there are tiny pockets of air that kind of get further and further apart the further you get into the dungeon. That it was this really stressful setting, and Thematically, just the swimming controls feel good. Thematically, it was this really cool like dark. All of these temples actually are pretty like dark. That they have a theme of descent, I guess, this time around, and all of them are creepy, and there's like really good sound in the background. And navigating that was like a fun challenge. Another one was like basically like a tiny horror story where I was progressing through this like fairly straightforward dungeon, but meanwhile all of these like unseen characters were chittering and like growling out of my field of view, and I trying to sabotage me like while I did these like tightly timed jumps and rock climbs and stuff.
All right.
And you never see them either, so it's like this really cool. And I hope you never figure out who they are or what they have to do with anything. It just felt like this really cool like this temple is freaky as fuck. I want to get out of here. I don't know what's going on here, and leave it behind. So that was cool.
That sounds a little bit more like classic original Tomb Raider to me.
Yeah, and then like that's what I came away with. Like something as simple as like just removing all of the clues, the context clues, making Laura quiet down, like just letting you feel like you're at the wheel again is almost enough to make it feel like actual Tomb Raider again. So
and just the idea of I don't think I've heard of another game have difficulty settings for unique components of the game. Yeah. That's a really cool idea, and I think there are probably a lot of people who would really like to play Tomb Raider for the exploration and the puzzles, maybe not so much for the combat, or vice versa.
Yeah, so I just think like I don't know any sort of like any game that like lets me like tinker with that stuff independently is I'm gonna praise that decision typically, unless it's like Dark Souls or something. But for a game like this, like it's a big dumb popcorn action game. Like I'm happy they're letting me tweak that on my own. So like previously was not interested in this game at all. Like the last two I was just like these are fine, but this one I'm excited. Just like it feels like the perfect kind of summer or like winter break game in that regard. Yeah.
Sweet.
One more quick call out for what I've been playing, and then I swear I'll shut up. But Beckett, I played this interactive experimental.
That's a play, James. What are you talking about?
I get games and plays mixed up all the time.
Wait, are we talking about Becker? Are we talking about the beloved sitcom here?
We are not talking about Becker, but go watch Becker.
Are you sure we're not talking about Becker?
We're not talking about Becker.
All right, continue.
Beckett is this like experimental multimedia sort of adventure game without puzzle. There's not really any puzzles to solve, but it follows this private detective and like an aging private detective as he sort of deals with one last case that tests the edges of his sanity, and it's presented in a really cool way. There's like top-down collage of, it looks like it reminds me of almost like the intro credits to Seven if it was a game, like weird case files and like x-rays and everything collaged together to make like an abstract representation of a guy moving through a room. And you kind of just descend deeper into madness as you follow this story, and it at certain points uses like old archived like medical footage. It's really dark and twisted, I should say, so like it's not for the light of heart. It's not easy on the eyes or mind.
Just like Becker.
Yeah, there's like some really gross medical footage that you do not want to be surprised by unless you are open to that. But a really cool thematic journey. It's pretty cheap. It's on Steam. It's like $10. I think it came out this year. I'm glad I played it because I like really creepy, dark stories that, especially, I haven't been playing, like, with being on the Fortnite beat, it's been a while since I, like, dived into weird, obscure indie games, so it was nice to get back on that. Beckett, that's Beckett, Beckett, I believe.
All right.
That's a lot of stuff I've been playing. Goddamn.
Ooh, you're busy.
I'm a busy boy.
I'm playing video games.
Yeah,
I don't know how you'd have time for all these.
I've been playing other things that I cannot wait to talk about too. So, it's gonna be fun. It's getting to fall, man. It's getting down to fall.
Yeah, it's that season.
Really, It's piling up. But let's talk about some news. Some pretty amazing news.
News.
We
There was a QuakeCon last week.
QuakeCon. And,
last weekend.
Yeah, Chris Livingston was there for us, and he did some great coverage that on all the news of like Fallout 76 and everything else that came out of that show. I'm forgetting at this point, but some good interviews and good quotes. So go to pcgamer.com for that. But the big thing, I think, for everyone was Doom Eternal. We finally saw Doom Eternal in action. And damn.
And there's still a shotgun.
Still a shotgun.
Worried.
Still a shotgun.
I'm sure a lot of people were like, is there going to be a shotgun? Because if there's not going to be a shotgun, I'll be very sad. Yes, there's a shotgun. And now it has a grappling hook on it.
Yeah, the shotgun has a grappling hook. So there's a lot to like take away from here. And I think the overarching, for me, it's like this looks very much like an expansion of the ideas that came in Doom 2016, which I am all for. Like, it's building on that.
I have to say, if you asked me, what should we add to our shotgun for this next game? What would a Doom game add to its shotgun? My first guess would be another shotgun, just bolted onto the existing shotgun. My next guess would have probably been like a rocket launcher. This was not what I expected to see attached to a shotgun, but it's such a good idea because it's all about like improving, enhancing the speed and mobility of this game while letting you keep using kind of everybody's favorite Doom weapon.
It's like Doom 3, you had to mod the flashlight onto the gun, and this time they just modded a grappling hook onto it. Yeah, and it like the footage is it was exactly what I wanted to see, because not only do you have the grappling hook on your shotgun, but you have a dash move now, and so you've got this guy just like in these big open arenas, just dashing around, grappling onto a guy, and then flying across the highest reaches of this big city torn asunder by demons, dodging in and out of the way really quickly. And just the mobility of that game was already sort of why I liked it so much, and it was a refreshing thing, especially in 2016. And it seems like they're just like doubling down on that, which is exactly what I want. There's also some interesting, like, unexpected surprises too. And I think for me, the biggest one is invasions.
Yeah. So this is kind of like a Dark Souls-y or like Watch Dogs style online multiplayer, right?
Yeah, we don't have like all of the details yet, but invasions, you can have like this always online function, I guess, where at random points you can be invaded or you can be the invader with like a group of buddies, and you spawn into someone's single player game, as a troop of demons. And I'm guessing like that's just, you can play, I would imagine you can play all of the ones that were playable in the multiplayer in the first game, and then some more. So you can show up and just try to fuck up someone's single player game. I don't know, like, I'm curious to know like how you reward or incentivize that beyond like fucking with someone. Maybe there's
I mean there's got to be some kind of bonuses for successfully killing another player, right? Like there's got to be some payoff for it. But it seems like probably not going to be like a big focus of the game, but still could end up being a really fun thing. Like Chris, when he reviewed Watch Dogs, which is very different because it's an open world game, right? But like that was his favorite thing about that game, was showing up, messing with somebody, trying to blend in like an AI unit. And I don't know if that's going to be how it can work in this game, because from the little bit of the invasion feature they showed in footage, it looks like it shows a player's name over the head of the whatever demon that they take over. So it's probably not going to be, there's not going to be subterfuge involved probably, which makes sense for Doom. It's just going to be them coming at you, trying to kill you. But that should, I think, keep levels that you've maybe played before and are just kind of like going through a replay kind of tense and exciting, because you never know when suddenly this one particular demon is going to be like way better at shooting at you, way more accurate or way faster or whatever than it would have been when it was just an AI unit. So there's still a lot of questions there, but I think it's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like it seems like a novel idea, just purely for the variety of play. Like I think replaying the Doom 2016 was like incredibly fun, and especially when they added like the scoring system and like the arcadey stuff. So this just seems like another natural way to rope in multiplayer without distracting from like the main experience, because I don't think they're doing multiplayer in the same way this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I think they said it. Whatever they do, it will be done in house rather than kind of a external thing. So don't know exactly what that will mean for multiplayer, but I think it will be probably better than the last game was.
Hopefully, because it was fine, but it was just very.
One thing they mentioned, I guess, kind of briefly at the presentation is like they're building out kind of the lore of Doom, building sort of a Doom universe, which it doesn't worry me, because everything that they've shown from this game seems like it has the tone just right. There was this really funny scene where they like drag some dude's key card from around his neck like over to a scanner, like while it's still around his neck, right? It's kind of just like dragging him over there. So I hope that they manage to find this balance of coming up with cool lore to kind of fill out the Doom world, but also making the general vibe of the game and the Doom Marine like, fuck this lore, we don't care. The creators need to give it attention, but they need to empower their character to continue with that sort of tone that the first game has, where you have this talking head in your voice like, oh, you need to do this, or like the whole station is fucked, and then you just like do it anyway because you don't care about whatever bullshit that they're yelling at you, So I hope that the lore that they build out for this is like they're setting the template for you to then just wreak havoc across all of these carefully laid plans.
I'm with you. Like the tone of that guy, that the reboot was exactly what I think we all needed.
Just that opening scene of like the first thing you do is like punch the little like video screen that's talking to you and knock it over and just be like, yeah, I don't want to listen to this shit. Like, I got demons to kill is such a good moment that I hope they never lose sight of that as they keep going. Yeah.
That said, the environments they showed from while they were talking about the Doom universe, I'm very excited to see their different depictions of hell, because it was kind of one note in that first game, but we've got like some deep dark blue environments with some crazy architecture. And some really elaborate stuff, so I'm excited for that kind of variety. I love cheeky, dumb, super serious depictions of hell.
Like the Doom interpretation of like Dante's Inferno could be great. To say like hell is not just like the fire plane where you go and there's a bunch of demons, but like are there these like strata of demon civilization where you have like the really like haughty demons hanging out in their sweet demon castles that you can go in and fuck up.
All about
that could be good stuff.
A couple other things. Destructible demons. So there's a new system that as you do damage to the demons, like they will lose bits of flesh and skin and sort of degrade over time, which it's a nice looking thing. You get it's like some nice visual feedback for the damage you've been doing, but also just funny and rad to see them chunk apart. We've got some good GIFs in that, and I linked to it in chat. You can see him. God, what are the things with arms called? The floating balls with arms now? They're from Doom 64, Doom 2.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the
Jesus Christ.
The name. It's not the I forget.
Yeah. But yeah,
I've written this before, but yeah,
Eternal something, Eternal, the Pain Eternal or something like that.
Pain something, is it the Pain Elemental?
Pain Elemental. There it is. And you've got there's a bunch of other demons we saw in there, including I think the big reveal at the end was the Archvile, and not only is the Archvile back, but the Doomslayer whips out a goddamn like hell sword at the end. So rad. We got. It just seems like this is exactly what I wanted more of. It's just bigger, dumber, faster, sillier. Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the idea that I'm assuming this is mostly building on, all of the tech and the art that they've created for the first game. So I love the idea that they have all these characters and like, okay, we had 3 like animations for, punch, like the execution moves on them or whatever. Now let's just keep those, but then add, 3 times as many because we don't have to recreate those original sets, whatever. So I feel like this one is going to really keep that stuff fresh and varied and give you a lot of fun new ways to kill stuff, which is pretty much what Doom is all about.
Yep. And two quick stories related to that. Single player DLC is planned for Doom Eternal, so that's cool. There was none for the first, which that was a bummer. And
I think maybe they had underestimated how popular the campaign of that first game was going to be.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a surprise for Bethesda. And mod support is a long-term target, so it's unclear if Snap Mats is coming back. I didn't really care for Snap Maps too much, but real ass mod support is a long-term target. Is that confirmed? No, but maybe it's going to happen this time, eventually, which would be very good.
It should, like that. It's so.
Yeah.
I mean, people are still making maps for Doom 2.
Yeah.
From 94.
That's wild.
95. I forget exactly when it came out. I think 94.
Yeah.
That's 24 years.
Yeah, and I think with Doom Eternal shooting locomotion system, you could be making maps for a long time for that too. So hopefully, I don't know. Did we get a release window or anything for? I don't think we did. But
I don't remember one.
I don't think so. I think we were asking in chat because they didn't really. They just said, "Here's the game," and then failed to mention that. But I'm sure we'll find out soon. Doom Eternal looks pretty good. If let us know how you're feeling about it in the chat. I think overall, the vibe I got, like when games are announced these days, I feel like there's always a healthy dose of cynicism. Not even a healthy dose, an unhealthy dose of cynicism from, I don't know, the gamerverse online, and it almost felt like there was nothing inherently disappointing about, or obviously disappointing, or about Doom Eternal's reveal. It was just kind of straightforward and checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
Cool. But we're running low on time, so let's get some questions in before we got to say goodbye. Before we do that, just so you know, we do prioritize questions from the PC Gamer Club Discord. If you don't know what the PC Gamer Club is, go to club.pcgamer.com. It's a monthly subscription that supports us directly, and it gives you some pretty cool benefits, including an ad-free experience on the site, invite to the Discord, free game each month, a digital subscription to the magazine, some high res glossy JPEGs of Tub Geralt, and first access to whatever beta keys and so on we get. And some other things in there too, I'm probably forgetting, but club.pcgamer.com. Let's read these questions. Where'd they go? Okay. Buttface Jones. And a few questions in Twitch chat, I should say. If we have time, we'll get to them, but tag PC Gamer. Any questions about games, and we'll see if we can have time to answer those. But Buttface Jones, what's a regular job that you think would make a fun simulator game?
Just a regular ass job.
I think the whole point of like simulator games is to make boring shit for the sake of it. Like that's the butt of the joke, is like we made this boring thing into an interactive experience.
All right, I got a good one.
What's that?
Apple Genius Counter.
What is this?
They're like the people who work at the Apple stores who fix your phone and laptop for you.
Well, on that note, Geek Squad. I had someone like my cousin or no Staples. I forget where they worked. I shouldn't call them.
That's biased.
But
Geek Squad.
Some like big retail tech support service. Like I forget what they told me, but they like their tech support amounts to basically they have something called the Matrix, and they basically like any PC you bring in, they'll be like, yeah, we'll fix that, and then they just plug it into the Matrix, which basically from that point it grants immediate access to someone working remotely for probably way too little money across the world, in which they then fix your PC. So that would be an interesting simulator.
I'm just thinking like Apple Genius, whatever, like doing the iPhone. It's a mix of you having to identify when there's actually nothing wrong with the phone. They just like turned it off, or like they forgot their passcode or whatever, and it's actually totally fine, versus the people who come in and like there's some crazy shit that you find on their phone, like oops, accidentally here's all their pixelated out porn on their phone.
Yep.
And then like some kind of puzzle element of actually like fixing
I mean,
stuff.
IT, like working like some kind of IT tech support like that would be an interesting sim. I mean, I did that for 4 years in college, and you do. It is very puzzly in that like you become a master of Google, and you also do run into some things you wish you had never seen, especially when you're backing up data. But yeah, thanks for the question, Buttface. Pendo. So Wes, good thing you're here because this one addresses your Steam has a hate group problem. Sort of update. Pendo asks, reading the vitriolic comments in response to the online article and Twitter post for the Steam as a hate group problem article seems to hint at what Valve and others are up against policing their platform. Do you think they are buying these, quote, counter arguments or just relenting so they can continue to take these deafening chuds' money? Have you considered PC Gamer's own fortitude going forward and tackling these types of stories and issues in light of the response? So maybe you can give us some context for...
Yeah, there's a couple questions there,
Yeah.
I guess. So yeah, I wrote a story this week about hate groups that are not too hard to find on Steam's like user groups feature. And I also found quite a few of them on PlayStation Network when I went looking for them, because I kind of wanted to compare what Steam's rules are around hate speech, around harassment, that kind of stuff, and how those rules compare to Xbox Live and PSN, and also how each of those companies enforce those rules. And from what I saw, like Xbox is by far the most comprehensive in how it enforces that stuff. And I think it's partially just a result of how people use that platform. There just aren't as many people using like the Xbox version of the groups feature, and it doesn't have sort of a like message board style place where you can go and leave comments, so there's just less reason to use that. But I also think they have much stricter filters in place that kind of just stop people from naming stuff using a lot of like slurs and like language that are not filtered on the other platforms. So I found a decent number of these on Steam, and I am not the first person to write about this stuff. The reason I wrote about it is because we have seen other people cover this in the past. Motherboard was covering it last year. Kotaku's covered it some months ago this year, and I wanted to go kind of see what the status of it was. Has this stuff changed? It really started getting attention after some of the school shootings over the past year, and people looked on Steam and went, there are all these groups named like school shooters and just variations on that theme, right? And Valve did get rid of a lot of those, but it took people shining a light on them for that to happen. And so a lot of those really nasty ones are gone. There are still some that you can find if you go looking for them that are anti-Semitic. And then there's other ones that I was highlighting about, like InfoWars, which was kind of what kicked this off, was InfoWars getting banned. Alex Jones from YouTube, from Facebook, Spotify, a lot of these platforms. And I found some, fan created ones associated with him on Steam that I'm sure there were probably a lot of people in comments saying like, well, these aren't hate groups. And that's true. If you actually read what I wrote in the article, like I wasn't lumping all of these things in under the exact same blanket. A lot of them are just like someone posting a really goofy picture of Alex Jones and then saying some random stuff underneath it. But then there were other ones that actually have stuff like the only good Jew is a dead Jew or something like that written in the comments of that group. And I think that's the kind of stuff that Valve should really pay attention to and crack down on. Like, it's not a welcoming thing for that platform. They have rules that say that kind of language is not okay on Steam. So I think if they have those terms of service, they should enforce them.
Good answer, Wes.
So I mean, that was just laying out the situation. There's so much to it, right? It's a complex thing. It's hard to moderate. I think they should probably have more filters in place to deal with that stuff. They have filters that are sort of applied in certain parts of Steam and not in others. And as best I could tell, they were not applied to groups. And if they were, they maybe wouldn't have to do too much moderation because that would just prevent that stuff from being posted in the first place. I don't know. But Pendo's question was something about, do we think they see people arguing against articles like mine and leave well enough alone so that they can keep getting money from these people? I don't think so, really, because one of the things I point out in my article is even when Valve has deleted some of these groups for being inappropriate or having hate speech or something, they're not actually banning the people. So even if they're not going that far, which I think they should be, like if someone creates a hate group, maybe you're not deleting their account from Steam, but you should at least disable them from being able to interact on the social side of it, right? Like, yeah, that seems like a sensible fair thing to do to me. But so I think they're not even at the point where they're doing that. So I don't think they're really making the money choice there. They're not seeing people say hateful stuff and going, well, we should let them stick around so we can keep charging them for stuff. I think it's more just they are very hands-off as a company and only take action in these kind of situations when they feel like they really need to, and it's just more work than they are putting into this problem at present. And I think that's just the way it's probably going to stay, but I would hope to be wrong about that.
Yep, I agree. Go away, bad people. Go away. Thank you, Wes. I'll link to that article in chat for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about. A couple more questions. Janrin. So, last week I accidentally set off the Twitch anti-hate message bot. Well, I have some. That's my bad because I still have some old PC Gamer Show blocked words, which is like every word ever sitting there. But it got me thinking, do you agree with the statement that most online games should have a system like that of sorts? And I think like what you might be referencing specifically is Rainbow Six Siege's more recent ban system for certain words, racist words, sexist. I don't know their entire, if they released their list, but just hate speech, I think. And I mean, like for me, do I think? I think all of them should. I have no room in my life for cruel people. And I don't think I would hope that more people are do the Blizzard/Ubi thing and make that very clear in the kind of communities they do want to create, that it is not. It is for. There's no room for that kind of mentality in these games. These communities.
Yeah, I think there's no perfect one size fits all solution. Like the selection of words and the way those rules are enforced and this kind, the length of a ban or like whatever the punishment is not going to work exactly the same for every online game. But should, every developer who hosts one of these kind of games consider that when they make it and have some kind of system in place to try to combat that kind of behavior? Yeah, absolutely.
Nicely said. Next question. I think we got time for one or two more. Acid Wolf asks, anyone from PC Gamer staff planning to attend PAX West? I'd be interested in more hands-on impressions of artifacts. So, yeah, I'm going to PAX West, and that's in 2 weeks.
2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Yeah, the end of August. So, and yeah, I'll be playing Artifact. You bet. I'm not the ideal card person, but I'm curious from, if I've always been curious about every card game, like which one can get me interested, and I like functionally I appreciate them, like for design wise what they accomplish and what they do with with fucking cards, and Artifact from the reveal that happened a couple months ago sounds like totally batshit and complex compared to Hearthstone with 3 lanes and
seriously
some wild stuff going on. So that alone has me interested, just how it's trying to do something so different. I think especially the I hope to learn more about the how the card economy will work as well, because if I remember correctly, you pay full price. Or excuse me, it's coming out November 28th. That's my birthday, by the way. And it's a game you buy. It's not a free-to-play game, but you will be able to like trade cards, from what I understand. That kind of shit is really interesting. So I don't know. Yeah, I'll play it. I'm gonna play a lot of stuff though. So if anyone's going to PAX West, say hi though. Please do. I'm friendly.
Were you a Magic player back in your teen days?
In college, I played a bit. I was never diehard because I was poor. I just didn't have those card games really suck you dry. So
they sure can.
But I played it socially at with coworkers and such. Never too seriously. Never really paid attention to the meta or like Hearthstone. I dabble in Hearthstone here and there. Like every couple of months, I'll play for a week or two and get my fill. So I'm really curious to see what Artifact does and how it feels in practice, and how it'll fit in this crowded CCG space. But yeah,
it's I don't know, it might crush everything that's not Hearthstone.
I mean, yeah, it's on Steam. It's gonna be a Valve game, so it's gonna be successful to a degree, a large degree. It's just like it's almost guaranteed at this point. One more question, Favis. What's the last game you rage quit? And has there ever been a game you rage quit and never went back to? You a rage quitter, Wes?
Donkey Kong 64.
I mean, yeah, that game's bad.
Which I had actually played through to 100% completion twice before. For some insane reason.
That's a hell of a twist.
Point. And then the third time through, I was playing it a few years later, like 2002 or something. So it was a few years old at that point. And I lost the race to that fucking beetle that you have to race as Tiny Kong. And I spiked my controller into the floor. To this day, the only controller I've ever broken in my life. And never played that game again.
You should really. This is like unrelated, but if you haven't, watch the SGDQ speedruns of Donkey Kong 64, and it's so funny because that game is clearly so broken and like and unpolished in some respects. But anyway, for me, the easy answer is Fortnite. I enjoy that game quite a bit, but there are some days in a competitive shooter when you're just not. You're not all together. You're not feeling well. I don't know what it is. You're just not on point, and it is so frustrating. It's just so frustrating. But I've never rage quit a game and never played again. I'm pretty sure because I'm too picky, too picky with the games I play. but knock on wood, we'll see. We'll see. That's all the time we have for today, though. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Don't forget, you can join us every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time here on twitch.tv/PCGamer. You can catch the VOD after the fact at youtube.com/PCGamer, or you can get the audio version, any other version you want, in the RSS feed at PCGamer.com/tag/podcast. Yeah, until next week. Wait, no, what's my new one? I was about to say Game On. Game On's dead.
Wait, Game On is dead. What
I think.
did I miss?
Yeah, you've been out for a couple weeks. Game On is dead. It failed all the focus testing. I wasn't getting a great response. The new one, never forget the power of play. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you
Oh God.
next week.